What if you could live rent-free in his mind, without constantly texting, chasing, or trying to impress him? What if, instead of wondering how to keep his attention, he was the one lying awake at night wondering how to get yours? This isn't about manipulation. It's about understanding the psychology of desire and stepping into your power in a way that makes you unforgettable. Because the truth is, men don't crave what's always available. They crave what disrupts their routine, sparks intrigue, and leaves a lasting emotional imprint. You don't have to be louder. You have to be smarter with your energy. When you create emotional moments, reveal yourself gradually, become a standard raiser in his life, and mirror his effort rather than over-delivering. You trigger a chase that feels organic, not forced. It's about quality over quantity. It's about being the calm in his storm, the mystery he wants to solve, the one woman who challenges him to show up better. This isn't about playing hard to get. It's about showing him that you're already whole, and he'll have to earn a place in your life, ready to learn how to make him think about you non-stop without ever losing yourself in the process. Let's talk. Most people go through their day on autopilot. They wake up, check their phone, scroll through the same feed, talk to the same people, and feel the same emotions. Their life becomes this loop of predictability where nothing really stands out anymore. And that's exactly why it's so easy for someone to forget you if you're blending into that loop. If you want to be unforgettable, if you want to be the person he can't stop thinking about, you need to emotionally disrupt his routine. Now, when I say disrupt, I don't mean chaos or drama. I'm talking about a powerful emotional interruption, a spark that breaks through his mental noise. Because here's the truth. It's not just about being seen. It's about being felt. You want to shift something in his emotional state, even if just for a moment. It could be making him laugh when he didn't expect to, saying something that gets him to pause and reflect, or showing up in a way that surprises him, in the best kind of way. And that doesn't take theatrics, it takes self-awareness. It's about knowing that how you show up is what makes people remember you. Think about this, in a world where most conversations are surface level, where most people just repeat what they think the other person wants to hear, you suddenly ask a deeper question. Not intrusive, just intentional. Something like, what's been on your mind lately that no one's asked you about? That's the kind of question that pulls someone out of autopilot. You've just made him think. You've made him feel. And that's rare. That's magnetic. It also shows up in the energy you bring. Most people are drained. They're exhausted. They're carrying the weight of their own stress, obligations, and self-doubt. If your presence becomes a momentary escape from that, if it becomes the place where he feels lighter, more alive, more appreciated, then you're not just another part of his day. You become the highlight of it, and highlights get replayed. Replayed in his head, in his memory, in his curiosity about when he's going to experience that feeling again. This doesn't mean you have to be perfect or always positive. In fact, one of the most powerful ways to disrupt someone's emotional pattern is through authenticity, vulnerability. When you're honest about something that most people would cover up, when you share a piece of yourself in a real way, it stands out like a lighthouse in a fog of filters. That moment of truth connects. It leaves a mark, and it tells him she's not like everyone else. It could be a moment of playful boldness too. Maybe you tease him in a way that no one else dares to, but it's done with warmth, not ego. Or maybe you call out something admirable in him that he's never been praised for. When someone hears a compliment they don't usually get, but one that cuts straight to who they are, it sticks. It becomes a loop in their head, not because it fed their ego, but because it fed a part of them that often goes unseen. And then there's timing. Sometimes it's not just what you say, but when you say it. When he's had a tough day, when he's questioning himself, when things aren't going his way. That's your chance to say something that shifts the emotional weather. It could be as simple as, I know you're carrying a lot right now, but I see how hard you're trying. That sentence, if timed right, can become the most replayed line in his internal dialogue, because no one else noticed, but you did. All of this only works if it comes from a place of presence. You can't disrupt someone's routine if you're in your own. You've got to be present enough to notice what's really going on with him. The subtle sigh, the forced smile, the hesitation in his voice. That kind of attentiveness makes someone feel deeply seen. And when someone feels seen in a world where most people feel invisible, they don't just remember you, they crave more of you. So ask yourself, what emotional experience do people associate with you? Do you leave them feeling more alive, more grounded, more connected, or do you blend into the background? Because if you want to live in someone's mind rent-free, you have to take them somewhere emotionally they don't often get to go. You have to be the moment in their day that pulls them out of their head and into their heart. That's how you stay on his mind long after you've left the room. You see, one of the biggest myths people fall into when it comes to attraction is thinking that if they're not constantly in someone's face, texting all the time, always available, always giving, then somehow they'll lose that person's attention. But the truth is, real attraction, the kind that lingers in someone's mind long after you've left the room, isn't built through overexposure. It's built through intrigue. And not the kind of intrigue that plays games or creates confusion, but the kind that naturally invites curiosity without withholding love or connection. We often think mystery means being cold or distant, like if you ignore someone long enough, they'll suddenly value you more. But that kind of tactic doesn't create meaningful interest. What it actually creates is frustration and eventually disinterest. You might get their attention for a moment, but it won't last. What truly captivates someone, what makes them think about you non-stop, is when you strike that delicate balance of openness and restraint. When you share parts of yourself honestly, but not all at once. When you're warm, but not over-invested. When you allow connection, but also leave space for pursuit. Think about a really great story. One that grabs you in the first few minutes, and you can't stop watching or reading because there's always just enough revealed to keep you hooked, but never so much that you already know how it's going to end. You keep turning the page because you want to know more. That's exactly how it works in attraction too. When you meet someone and you bring your full self to the interaction, you're present, you're engaging, you're expressive, but you don't try to fast forward the intimacy. You give them room to want more. And that space, that's where their thoughts of you grow. A lot of people confuse vulnerability with full disclosure, but vulnerability isn't about putting all your emotions, insecurities, or history out on the table on day one. It's about choosing what to share, when to share it, and how much of yourself to allow someone access to, based on trust that builds over time. When you allow someone to slowly learn more about you, what makes you passionate, what scares you, what you dream about, you create anticipation, you give depth to the connection. And with every new piece revealed, you become more memorable, more real, and more valuable in their mind. Now, here's where it gets subtle. Most people swing too far in one direction. Either they overshare, thinking that more information will create intimacy, or they become guarded, afraid that if they show anything real, they'll scare the other person off. But real power lies in the middle. It lies in the ability to be emotionally available while also being selective with your intimacy. To connect, but not rush. To invite, without overwhelming. That kind of presence leaves a person thinking about you when they're driving, when they're working, when they're trying to sleep, because they haven't figured you out yet, but they feel you. They feel the pull of wanting to know more. And this doesn't mean you need to hide or pretend to be someone you're not. It means showing up with authenticity and self-awarenessness. For example, instead of just answering questions or talking about surface level things, share your perspective on something. Why a certain moment meant something to you. Why you chose a particular path. What values matter most to you. These are the layers that make you compelling. And when you add those layers, little by little, people don't just get to know you, they begin to experience you. And once someone starts to experience you on a deeper level, your presence doesn't just fade once you're gone. It lingers. It echoes. They replay what you said. They analyze the way you made them feel. They wonder what else there is to uncover. When you become a woman of depth and self-respect, you naturally create that curiosity, not because you're trying to manufacture mystery, but because you understand that your value isn't in how much you can give up front, it's in how much you reveal over time. And the truth is, the more a man feels like he has to earn his way into your inner world, the more he'll value it once he's there. If you let him rush in, he may not even rush in, he may not even realize the gift he's being handed. But if you let him move through your world, one layer at a time, you give him something to think about long after the moment has passed. That's how you stay on someone's mind. Not by being distant, not by playing hard to get, but by being emotionally available and emotionally intentional, by offering something real and still holding something sacred. Because the moment a man realizes there's more to learn, more to discover, and that he hasn't seen the whole picture yet, that's the moment he can't stop thinking about you. You know what most people forget when they try to make someone think about them? They forget that it's not about constant reminders. It's about emotional impact. We're so used to thinking that if we stay in touch often, if we're present all the time, if we're texting every morning and every night, then maybe we'll stay in someone's head. But the truth is, being physically or digitally present doesn't always make you emotionally memorable. What really matters, what really sticks, is how you made someone feel. People remember feelings far more than they remember details. They might forget the words you said. They might even forget the situation you were in. But if you made them feel something that shook up their usual emotional pattern, something different, something rare, that emotion anchors you to their memory. That's how you linger. That's how you replay in someone's mind long after the moment has passed. When you create positive emotional experiences where someone feels seen, understood, excited, inspired, or even just profoundly comfortable, they begin to associate you with that emotion. And because everyone is constantly searching, either consciously or unconsciously, for more of what makes them feel good, they'll start to crave your presence. Not just because they like you, but because your presence does something for them. It fills a gap. So ask yourself, what's the emotional impact you're leaving behind when you interact with someone you care about? When he walks away from a conversation with you, is he lighter? Is he challenged in a way that makes him want to rise? Did you spark joy? Did you listen in a way that made him feel heard instead of just heard out? So many people are present in relationships, but they're not emotionally available. They're not present in a way that truly lands. They talk, but don't connect. They share, but don't engage. And when that happens, you become just another person in the room, just another text thread, just another day. But the ones we think about, the ones who stick in our minds like a scene we can't stop replaying, they made us feel something meaningful. They brought an unexpected calm during a storm. Or they lit a spark when we were bored with the world. Maybe they called out a strength we didn't even know we had. Or they laughed with such unapologetic joy that it gave us permission to be less guarded. These are emotional fingerprints, and they don't fade. Now, it doesn't mean every moment needs to be profound. It's not about orchestrating some constant performance where you're always trying to deliver an emotional high. That's not real, and people can smell effort that's performative rather than authentic. What you're aiming for is connection, and connection comes from sincerity. It comes from curiosity. It comes from caring enough to show up fully, even in small, seemingly ordinary moments. You know, when someone says, I don't know what it is, but I just can't stop thinking about her. That's it. That's the emotional blueprint you want to leave behind. And sometimes it's not even something you said. It's how safe they felt in your presence, or how you noticed the thing no one else saw, or how you made fun of them in a way that didn't diminish them, but made them feel closer to you. Emotional anchoring doesn't always come in loud, grand moments. Sometimes it's quiet, but powerful. It's the way you listened when he opened up. It's the tiny detail you remembered from something he said weeks ago. It's how you looked at him, not with judgment, but with recognition. People crave that kind of emotional resonance because it's rare. And rarity, that's what makes someone unforgettable. It's easy to try and impress someone with looks, achievements, or how chill you can act. But none of those things guarantee someone will think about you when they're alone. What makes the real difference is when they feel more like themselves in your presence. When your energy pulls them out of autopilot and into a feeling they didn't know they missed. Think about that. When someone feels more like the best version of themselves around you, more confident, more at ease, more alive, they won't just think about you, they'll want more of you. You become their emotional home base, not in a way that creates dependency, but in a way that creates magnetic pull. Because now being around you isn't just nice, it's needed. So the next time you're wondering how to make a deeper impression, start with how you're making someone feel. Aim for real, not perfect. Focus on connection, not performance. That's how you stop being just another person in his day and start being the moment he keeps replaying in his mind. Most people spend their time trying to be liked. They do everything they can to say the right things, respond at the right times, and keep someone's interest by walking this delicate tightrope of being agreeable, accommodating, and available. But here's the problem with that. When you blend in, you don't stand out. And when you don't stand out, you don't stick in someone's mind. You're just another pleasant person in a sea of pleasant people. If you want to make someone think about you nonstop, you have to become the unexpected upgrade in their life. Think about what that means. It's not about being flashy or perfect or constantly trying to impress. It's about being the person who makes someone stop and go, who is this? Not because of something shallow, but because there's a weight, a presence, an energy about you that makes them feel like their life just shifted a bit because you walked into it. People remember what challenges them in the right way, not the kind of challenge that makes them feel judged or not good enough. I'm talking about the kind of challenge that inspires them. When you show up with standards, real standards, not performative boundaries, you instantly change the dynamic. You're not trying to be chosen. You're not seeking validation. You're not adjusting your values to match theirs. You're rooted in your life, your purpose, your principles. And if someone want to be a part of that, it's a privilege, not a given. Now, here's what that does. That kind of presence is disarming. It's a curveball. Most people are used to others shrinking around them or chasing their approval. But when you show up as someone who has a full life, who has goals, who respects themselves enough not to chase, yet still brings warmth, generosity, and openness, you instantly become the exception. And we don't forget the exception. We obsess over it. We try to understand it. We want to get closer to it. This isn't about playing hard to get. That's a strategy rooted in insecurity. What I'm talking about is becoming someone who genuinely doesn't need someone else to feel complete, but is totally open to being deeply connected to the right person. That balance is magnetic. It's rare, and it's what makes you unforgettable. When you embody that energy, you become the mirror that reflects someone's potential, not their comfort zone. You make them want to step up, not because you told them to, but because something about you awakens that desire naturally. You don't have to lecture. You don't have to prove your worth. You just are. And they feel it. It hits them on a level they can't even explain. That's the moment they start thinking about you when you're not around. That's when you start living rent-free in their mind, not because you begged for space there, but because they offered it willingly. Being the upgrade isn't about having a perfect life or always being on. It's about living in alignment with your values. It's about showing that you have a direction, that you aren't waiting for someone to rescue you or complete your story. You're already writing a damn good one on your own, and you're simply looking for someone who wants to co-author a new chapter, not rewrite your whole narrative. That kind of energy shifts how people experience you. It changes how they see you, and more importantly, how they see themselves when they're with you. You become a source of both peace and fire. You're not just a soft place to land, you're a spark that makes them feel alive. That contrast is unforgettable. And that's the key. You don't want to be easily explained or easily replaced. You want to be the person who leaves someone wondering, how did I not meet someone like this before? You want them measuring others against the feeling they had when they were around you. That's what happens when you show up with depth, with strength, with clarity, with that grounded sense of self that says, I know who I am, and I'm not afraid to walk away from anything that doesn't honor that. And here's the twist. They may not even fully understand why they can't stop thinking about you. They may try to distract themselves, date other people, keep it casual, but something in them will keep circling back, because once you've experienced someone who brings real value into your life, emotional value, intellectual value, energetic value, it's hard to settle for surface again. You ruin them for the ordinary. So don't tone yourself down to fit into someone else's comfort zone. Don't play small so that someone finds you more digestible. Be the upgrade. Not in a way that screams, look how amazing I am, but in a way that quietly demonstrates, I know my worth, and if you want to be here, step up. Because once someone meets the version of you that's living from that place of grounded power, self-respect, and emotional generosity, they won't just remember you, they'll crave you. You don't have to be in someone's face every single day to be unforgettable. It's not the number of times you message, call, or show up that makes someone think about you nonstop. It's the impression you leave when you do. This is where so many people get it wrong. They think, if I can just stay in constant contact, if I can keep showing up on his phone, on his feed, in his space, I'll stay in his mind. But it doesn't work like that, because attention isn't the same as emotional impact, and frequency isn't the same as value. Think about it. We're exposed to thousands of messages a day. We scroll through dozens of faces, conversations, and meaningless notifications, and most of it is forgettable. It's background noise. The things that stick with us, the ones that echo long after the moment has passed, those are the moments that meant something, the ones that hit in a deeper place. That's exactly how you make someone think about you long after you've left the room or their phone. You create impact. You make moments count more than the frequency of your presence. And that starts with a shift in intention. Instead of thinking, how do I stay in touch? Think, how do I make this interaction matter? A single moment of genuine connection beats 10 surface-level interactions. A message that makes someone smile, laugh, or feel seen will always land harder than constant texts that just say, "What's up?" or "Hey." It's not that checking in is bad. It's just that it doesn't anchor you in their mind. It doesn't carve out a place that lingers. When you're present with someone, be fully there. Put away the need to impress. Drop the script. Bring your real energy. When you do that, you create space for connection. Playful, meaningful, even vulnerable. Maybe you tease him a little in a way no one else does. Maybe you say something that challenges how he sees the world, and he's still thinking about it while brushing his teeth that night. Maybe you notice something about him that most people overlook, and he starts to wonder how you saw that in him. That's how you live in someone's head rent-free, not because you repeated yourself into their memory, but because you mattered to them in a way they didn't expect. And here's the thing, when you learn how to trust this, because you'll know you're creating moments that leave an imprint. That's powerful. That's magnetic. But it also takes a certain emotional maturity, a willingness to resist the urge to flood them with your presence out of insecurity. A lot of people chase attention out of fear. Fear that if they stop reaching out, they'll be forgotten. That if they're quiet for a moment, the connection will disappear. But that only leads to overcompensation, pushing for reassurance, when what really keeps someone engaged is a sense of respect for your presence. When you're able to step back and focus on the quality of your interactions rather than the quantity, you build tension in the best way. You become someone he reflects on when he's alone. Not because you were always there, but because when you were there, you left something behind. An emotion, a spark, a curiosity that now lives in him. He starts to wonder when he'll hear from you again. Not because you ghosted him, but because he feels the absence of your energy. And it's in that quiet space, the space between the interactions, that longing is created. That's when someone starts to mentally revisit the moments you shared, replaying the way you looked at him, the thing you said that made him laugh, or that one sentence that made him pause and think. You become an experience he keeps coming back to in his mind. And the beautiful part? You didn't have to fight for that place. You earned it by being that place. So don't fall into the trap of thinking more always means better. Don't dilute your energy just to stay on his radar. Let your interactions breathe. Let the space between them work in your favor. That space isn't emptiness. It's where desire grows. Because in a world that's constantly loud, constantly fast, the person who knows how to create stillness, meaning, and connection, that's the person who stands out. When you make your moments matter, you don't need to chase attention. You become unforgettable. One of the biggest shifts you can make, not just in dating, but in life, is learning to mirror energy instead of constantly chasing it. And it's funny because for so many of us, especially when we really like someone, there's this urge to prove ourselves, to show how much we care, to remind them we're thinking about them. We want to be memorable, right? We want to be the one they can't stop thinking about. But what ends up happening is we start overcompensating. We start doing too much. We give more than what's being given to us. And we think, well, if I just show him how much I like him, maybe then he'll step up. But what that really does is tip the balance. Because when someone doesn't have to work for your attention, when they're constantly being reassured of your presence while doing very little to earn it, they stop valuing it. It's just human nature. The more available something is, the less our brain assigns value to it. And the problem is, once you become the one doing all the emotional labor, all the initiating, all the effort, you're not on his mind more, you're on it less. Not because you're not good enough, but because you've removed the space that creates desire. You see, we think showing more interest will create more connection. But actually, showing interest isn't the problem. It's how we express that interest. Because there's a way to be genuinely interested in someone without giving your whole self away before he's even earned that level of access to you. The key is mirroring his investment, not chasing it. If he texts, you text. If he calls, you call back. If he opens the door for connection, you walk through it. But you don't build the entire doorway for him. Because when you mirror his interest, what you're really doing is honoring your self-worth. You're saying, I enjoy you, but I enjoy me too. I'm not going to abandon myself just to get your attention. And that is incredibly powerful. That's what creates intrigue. That's what makes him think about you when you're not around. Because suddenly he can feel that you're not trying to win him over, you're evaluating whether he fits into your world just as much as he's deciding if you fit into his. When you're not chasing him, when you're not constantly trying to maintain his interest, he starts to wonder what's going on in your mind. He starts to wonder what your standards are. Who else might be noticing you? What kind of life you're building that doesn't revolve around him? And the moment that happens, you go from being someone he passively enjoys to someone he's actively trying to understand and impress. But it takes trust. It takes trust in yourself that you are enough without having to overextend. It takes patience to not fill every silence, to let things unfold, to give him the opportunity to miss you instead of crowding the space with effort. Because desire builds in space, not in suffocation. And when someone has to lean in a little, when they have to invest a bit more, they begin to value the connection because they've participated in building it. You don't have to manipulate, you don't have to play games. All you have to do is stand in your value and match the energy you're receiving. If he speeds up, you speed up. If he slows down, you observe. You don't panic. You don't start performing to try and recapture his attention, because the second you feel like you're performing, you've stopped connecting. The moment you start trying to convince, you've lost your power. And here's the beautiful part. When you mirror interest instead of chasing it, you naturally attract someone who wants to give more. Because you're not making it too easy, but you're not closing the door either. You're creating a dynamic of healthy tension, just enough unpredictability to keep him curious, just enough accessibility to keep him grounded. That combination is what makes someone think about you nonstop. Because you're not just another person trying to win him. You're someone who's already whole, someone he has to meet halfway. And the truth is, the person who's right for you won't need constant reassurance. He'll value the balance. He'll respect that you have a life, that you won't compromise your boundaries just to keep someone around. That's the kind of connection that lasts, not one built on chasing, but one built on mutual recognition. So if you want to be unforgettable, don't just show him how much you care. Show him how deeply you care about yourself. That's the version of you he'll never be able to get out of his head.